The morning sun peeked through the clouds as Mei Lin stepped out of her modest blue sedan. She smoothed down her simple cotton dress, took a deep breath, and looked up at the gleaming storefront of Crystal Palace jewelry. The shop stood like a beacon among the other high-end stores on Diamond Avenue, its windows sparkling with treasures that most people only dreamed of owning. Mei Lin clutched her worn leather handbag a little tighter. It had been her mother's, and though the corners were frayed and the color had faded over the years, she couldn't bring herself to replace it. Some things had value beyond their appearance, a lesson her late husband had taught her well. Today marked the 5th anniversary of his passing. Howe had built their technology company from nothing but an idea and unwavering determination. "Never forget where we came from," he would always say, even after their company went public and their bank accounts swelled beyond imagination. It was a promise Mei Lin had kept faithfully. She pushed open the heavy glass door of Crystal Palace. A soft chime announced her arrival, but no one turned to look. The interior was even more impressive than the outside. Marble floors polished to mirror-like perfection, crystal chandeliers hanging from high ceilings, and glass display cases that seemed to float in the air. Each case held treasures more dazzling than the last. 3 sales associates stood chatting near the main counter. They wore identical black suits with silver name tags, and each had perfected the same practiced smile. Mei Lin nodded politely, in their direction, but none acknowledged her. She wasn't surprised. Her appearance rarely commanded attention in places like this. Mei Lin moved toward a display of diamond necklaces. Each piece was a work of art, platinum and white gold settings cradling stones that caught the light and broke it into rainbows. She leaned closer to examine a particularly beautiful pendant, her eyes tracing the craftsmanship with appreciation. "That's the Victoria collection," a voice said, but not to her. A sales associate named Philip had hurried over to greet a young couple who had just entered. The woman wore designer clothes that still had the fresh, stiff look of a recent purchase. The man's watch alone probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. "These pieces start at $70,000, Philip explained, his voice carrying throughout the quiet store. "But for someone with your discerning taste, I'd recommend the Duchess line instead." Mei Lin smiled to herself and moved to another display. She had time. Patience was another lesson Howe had taught her well. More customers entered. A loud group of friends wearing matching sunglasses perched on top of their heads. An older gentleman in a tailored suit, a celebrity Mei Lin recognized from magazine covers. For each, the staff materialized instantly, offering champagne, private viewings, and effusive compliments. For Mei Lin, there was nothing but sideways glances. One associate even followed a few steps behind her, not to help but to keep an eye on the plain woman who clearly didn't belong. After 20 minutes of browsing unattended, Mei Lin paused before a magnificent display at the center of the store. Inside the case sat a necklace unlike any other, a cascade of diamonds surrounding a rare blue stone that seemed to glow from within. No price tag was visible, which meant it probably cost more than most homes. "It's beautiful," she murmured. Young sales associate named Raj finally approached her. His smile didn't reach his eyes, and his posture suggested he'd drawn the short straw among his colleagues. "Can I help you find something?" he asked, his tone making it clear he doubted. She could afford anything in the store. "I'd like to see this piece, please," Mei Lin said, pointing to the blue diamond necklace. Raj's eyebrows rose slightly. "The Azure Empress? That piece is—" He hesitated. "Quite exclusive. Perhaps I could show you something more accessible?" "I'd like to see the Azure Empress," Mei Lin repeated gently. Raj's smile tightened. "Ma'am, that necklace is priced at $3.2 million. It features a rare blue diamond that's over 100 years old." "Yes, I know," Mei Lin nodded. "The Harrington Blue Diamond. It was last sold at auction in Hong Kong 12 years ago. I was there." A flicker of uncertainty crossed Raj's face. Most casual shoppers wouldn't know such details. Still, Mei Lin's appearance didn't match someone who attended high-profile jewelry auctions. "I'll need to get my manager," Raj said finally. "We don't typically remove this piece unless there's serious interest." "I understand," Mei Lin said. "I'll wait." Raj disappeared into the back room. where animated whispering could be heard. Mei Lin pretended not to notice, turning her attention to a display of wedding bands instead. Her daughter would be getting married next spring. Perhaps she would find something suitable for the young couple here. A tall man with silver hair emerged from the back, followed by Raj. The older man approached, with a practiced smile that barely concealed his skepticism. "Good afternoon. I'm Harold Weber, the store director. I understand you're interested in our Azure Empress necklace." "Yes," Mei Lin said simply. "It's quite extraordinary, isn't it?" Harold continued. "The centerpiece of our collection. Of course, it requires special handling. There's also paperwork involved for serious inquiries." His voice trailed off, the implication clear. Before Mei Lin could respond, the store's entrance chimed again. A woman entered wearing a fur coat despite the mild weather, her fingers and ears dripping with diamonds that caught the light. Harold's attention immediately shifted. "Mrs. Blackwood, what a pleasure to see you again," he exclaimed, already moving toward the newcomer. "We just received those emerald earrings you were asking about last month." Mei Lin was left standing alone once more, Raj having seized the opportunity to help another customer. She sighed softly and checked the delicate watch on her wrist. A simple design with a thin leather band. She had promised her assistant she'd be back at the office for a 2 o'clock meeting. Perhaps this had been a mistake. As she turned to leave, her phone rang. The screen showed her daughter's smiling face. "Hello, dear," Mei Lin answered warmly. "Mom, did you make it to the jewelry store? Did you find something amazing?" Her daughter's excitement bubbled through the phone. "I'm here now, but I'm not sure if today is the right day," Mei Lin replied, keeping her voice light. "It's quite busy. Mom, please don't leave. You promised you'd start shopping for wedding jewelry today. You know how you always put these things off." Mei Lin smiled at her daughter's persistence. "There are other stores, but Crystal Palace has the best selection. Uncle Wei said their blue diamonds are exceptional. Please just ask to see something. For me?" The love in her daughter's voice melted Mei Lin's resolve. "All right, Lin. For you." After ending the call, Mei Lin straightened her shoulders and walked purposefully toward Harold, who was still fawning over Mrs. Blackwood. She waited patiently until there was a pause in the conversation. "Excuse me," Mei Lin said politely. "I'm still interested in seeing the Azure Empress." Harold looked momentarily annoyed at the interruption. "As I mentioned, that piece requires serious interest and—" "I understand." Mei Lin nodded. "I should probably call my financial advisor then. He suggested several pieces here that might be suitable for my daughter's wedding." She pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts, finding the name she needed. She pressed dial and waited, aware that Harold was watching with thinly veiled impatience. "Hello, Victor? Yes, I'm at Crystal Palace now. The collection is as impressive as you mentioned, but I'm having trouble seeing the pieces up close." She paused, listening. "Yes, that's right. The Azure Empress, and perhaps some pieces from their heritage collection." Harold's expression shifted slightly as he heard this exchange. No, Mei Lin continued into the phone. "I don't think that will be necessary. I can always visit the boutique in Paris next week instead. You mentioned they were holding several pieces for me to consider." Another pause. "Yes, I remember the Astor collection. The director there was very accommodating last year when we purchased my mother's anniversary gift." As Mei Lin spoke, a young woman rushed up to Harold and whispered urgently in his ear. Harold's eyes widened as he looked back at Mei Lin with new interest. "Actually, Victor, let me call you back," Mei Lin said. "The store director is available now. Yes, thank you." She ended the call and looked expectantly at Harold, whose demeanor had transformed entirely. "Mrs. Chen, please accept my sincere apologies for the wait," Harold said, his voice now smooth as silk. "I didn't realize, that is, we would be honored to show you our finest pieces. Perhaps in our private viewing room. We can have refreshments brought in, and of course you'll want to see the Azure Empress right away." Mei Lin tilted her head slightly. "You know my name?" Harold looked, flustered for a moment. "Your reputation precedes you, Mrs. Chen. Victor Wang is a valued partner of our establishment. Any friend of his. He gestured toward the back of the store. Please, this way. We have much to show you. As Harold led her toward a discreet door marked Private Clientele Only, Maylene caught sight of Raj staring at her with open shock. The other customers watched curiously as the plainly dressed woman was suddenly being treated like royalty. Maylene followed Harold, her expression serene. She hadn't come here to teach anyone a lesson about judging people by their appearance. She had simply come to find something beautiful for her daughter's wedding. But perhaps a small lesson would be learned today anyway. The private viewing room was a world away from the main floor of Crystal Palace. Soft classical music played from hidden speakers. The lighting was perfect, bright enough to make the gems sparkle but gentle enough to create an atmosphere of luxury and calm. Plush velvet chairs surrounded a polished table of dark wood. The walls were lined with paintings that Maylene recognized as originals, not reproductions. Harold led her to the most comfortable-looking chair and pulled it out for her. Please, make yourself comfortable, Mrs. Chen. Can I offer you something? To drink? Champagne, perhaps? Or we have an excellent jasmine tea if you prefer. Tea would be lovely, Maylene said as she settled into the chair. She placed her worn handbag on the table without embarrassment. It had traveled with her to business meetings in Tokyo, charity galas in London, and quiet family dinners at home. A bag was just a bag, after all. Harold nodded eagerly and pressed a button on the wall. Almost instantly, a young woman appeared. Tea for Mrs. Chen, Sophia, the special reserve, and bring the Azure Empress right away along with the matching pieces. The young woman nodded and disappeared. Harold remained standing, his hands clasped behind his back. I must apologize for the misunderstanding earlier, he said, his voice heavy with regret that hadn't existed 30 minutes ago. Had I known who you were? Please, Maylene interrupted gently. There's no need for apologies. I don't expect special treatment. Harold looked uncomfortable at this. In his world, wealth always expected special treatment. That was the natural order of things. A woman worth billions who didn't demand recognition was outside his experience. Of course, he said, though his expression suggested he didn't understand at all. Still, Crystal Palace prides itself on excellent service for all our clients. Lynn simply smiled. They both knew that wasn't true. The door opened and Sophia returned carrying a lacquered tray with an elegant teapot and a single cup. Behind her came Raj, now looking nervous, carrying a black velvet tray. On it lay the Azure Empress necklace, gleaming under the room's lighting. Thank you, Maylene said as Sophia poured the tea. The young woman smiled genuinely. The first real smile Maylene had received since entering the store. Harold gestured for Raj to approach. Mrs. Chen, as you know, the Azure Empress is one of our most exceptional pieces. The center stone is 4 carats, cushion cut, natural blue diamond, with VVS1 clarity, Maylene finished for him. The surrounding diamonds are colorless D-grade with an excellent cut. The setting is platinum, handcrafted by Antonio Vicelli before his retirement. Harold's eyebrows rose slightly. You're very knowledgeable about fine jewelry. My husband believed in understanding the value of things, Maylene said, reaching for her teacup. Not just their price, but their true worth. She took a small sip. The tea was exquisite, probably costing hundreds per ounce. She wondered if they served this to all their customers, or only those deemed important enough. Raj still stood holding the tray, looking uncertain. Maylene smiled at him. May I? She asked, gesturing to the necklace. Of course, Harold answered for him. Raj, please assist Mrs. Chen. With slightly trembling hands, Raj placed the tray on the table in front of Maylene. She leaned forward to examine the piece more closely, not touching it yet. The blue diamond seemed to hold a universe inside it, deep and mysterious, capturing light and transforming it into something magical. It's even more beautiful up close, she murmured. Would you like to try it on? Harold suggested eagerly. Maylene nodded. Raj carefully lifted the necklace from its velvet bed and moved behind her chair. As he draped it around her neck, She felt the cool weight of the diamonds against her skin. The clasp clicked softly. Harold quickly produced a mirror and held it up for her. The contrast between her simple cotton dress and the multi-million-dollar necklace might have seemed odd to some, but to Mei Lin, it made perfect sense. Beauty was beauty, regardless of its surroundings. "It suits you remarkably well," Harold said, his tone suggesting mild surprise. Before Mei Lin could respond, the door opened again. A tall man with silver-streaked black hair entered the room. His tailored suit and commanding presence immediately drew everyone's attention. Harold's eyes widened. "Mr. Weber," the newcomer said, extending his hand. "I'm Vincent Zhou, CFO of Chen Technologies. I hope I'm not interrupting." Harold nearly tripped over himself to shake Vincent's hand. "Not at all. We're honored to have you both here. Mrs. Chen is just viewing the Azure Empress." Vincent turned to Mei Lin with warm familiarity. "Mei, I got your message. I was nearby at the bank, so I thought I'd join you." He looked at the necklace and smiled appreciatively. "Lin will love that for her wedding day." "I think so too," Mei Lin agreed. "It reminds me of the ocean near her fiancé's family home." Vincent turned to Harold. "What else have you shown her?" Harold's smile faltered slightly. "We were just getting started with just the necklace so far," Mei Lin said quietly. Vincent's eyebrows rose as he looked at Harold. "Just the necklace? Mei has been here for..." He checked his watch. "Nearly 40 minutes, and you've shown her one piece?" "There was a bit of confusion earlier," Mei Lin explained, trying to smooth things over. She had never enjoyed watching people squirm, even when they deserved it. Vincent understood immediately. He'd known Mei Lin for over 20 years, since the early days when Chen Technologies operated out of a tiny office and he was the company's only accountant. He'd seen how people treated her when they didn't know who she was. "I see," Vincent said, his voice cooling several degrees as he addressed Harold. "Perhaps you could show us the complete set now, and the heritage collection Mrs. Chen mentioned on the phone?" "Right away," Harold said, pressing the wall button again. When Sophia appeared, he rattled off a list of items to bring. The young woman's eyes widened at the extensive list, but she nodded and hurried away. While they waited, Vincent chatted with Mei Lin about her daughter's wedding plans. They spoke in English, though they occasionally slipped into Mandarin when discussing family matters. Harold stood by attentively, trying to appear interested without seeming like he was eavesdropping. "The venue is booked?" Vincent asked. "Yes, the botanical garden on the hillside," Mei Lin said. "It's where Hao proposed to me." "Perfect," Vincent nodded. "And the guest list?" "Just 300, Mei Lin said with a small smile. Lin wanted to keep it intimate. Harold coughed slightly at the word intimate being used to describe a 300-person wedding, but quickly composed himself. The door opened again, and 3 staff members entered carrying trays laden with jewelry. Behind them came a distinguished-looking, older woman Mei Lin hadn't seen before. She wore a perfectly tailored suit and carried herself with natural authority. "Mrs. Chen, Mr. Zhou," the woman said with a slight bow. "I'm Diana Huang, owner of Crystal Palace. When I heard you were visiting us today, I wanted to personally welcome you." Harold looked startled at Diana's appearance. Clearly word had traveled quickly throughout the store about their important visitor. "Thank you," Mei Lin said warmly. "You have a beautiful establishment, which we hope to make more welcoming to all our customers," Diana said, with a pointed glance at Harold. Her expression made it clear that she had heard about the earlier treatment Mei Lin had received. "Please let me show you our finest pieces." Over the next hour, Diana personally presented jewelry that was rarely shown to the public. Exquisite diamond sets, rare colored gemstones, historical pieces with fascinating provenance, all laid before Mei Lin like treasures from a royal vault. Each piece came with a story, which Diana told with genuine passion for the craftsmanship and history. Mei Lin found herself warming to Diana, whose knowledge and appreciation for the jewelry went beyond their monetary value. Here was someone who understood what Hao had taught her, that true worth wasn't just about price tags. As Maylin examined a pair of sapphire earrings that would complement the Azure Empress perfectly, she noticed Harold hovering nearby, looking increasingly uncomfortable. The other customers on the main floor had surely noticed the commotion by now. Through the partially open door, she could see staff members whispering to each other, stealing glances toward the private room. The young sales associates who had ignored her earlier now looked mortified. One was being quietly reprimanded by a manager in the corner. Another kept shooting anxious glances toward the private room, as if afraid he might lose his job over the mistake of judging a billionaire by her modest dress and unassuming manner. "These are lovely," Maylin said, referring to the earrings. "I'll take them along with the necklace." "Excellent choices," Diana approved. "Would you like to see matching bracelets as well? We have 2 styles that would pair beautifully." Vincent's phone buzzed. He checked it and leaned toward Maylin. "That's Lin asking how the shopping is going. She wants pictures." Maylin smiled. Her daughter's excitement was contagious even from a distance. "Tell her we found the perfect something blue for her wedding day." She turned back to Diana. "Yes, I'd love to see the bracelets, and perhaps some options for the mother of the bride as well. Something elegant but not too flashy." As Diana went to retrieve more pieces, Lin caught sight of her reflection in one of the room's mirrors. The woman who looked back at her seemed unchanged. The same simple dress, the same gentle eyes that Hao had fallen in love with decades ago. Only the magnificent blue diamond at her throat hinted at the wealth and power she carried so lightly. It wasn't the jewelry that made her special, Maylin knew. Hao had taught her that. It was everything else. Her kindness, her wisdom, her respect for all people regardless of their status. Those were the true treasures she hoped to pass on to her daughter, far more valuable than any diamonds she might purchase today. By the time Maylin had selected all the pieces for her daughter's wedding, a small crowd had gathered outside the private viewing room. Staff members found excuses to walk past the partially open door. Customers lingered near the entrance, straining to catch a glimpse of the woman who had arrived in ordinary clothes, but was now trying on millions of dollars worth of jewelry. Diana. Huang had brought out the store's most spectacular collections, pieces normally kept in a special vault and shown only during private appointments made weeks in advance. Yet here they were, spread across the table before Maylin like an offering. This tennis bracelet would pair beautifully with the earrings, Diana suggested, holding up a delicate strand of blue sapphires and diamonds. The graduated sizing of the stones creates a waterfall effect. Maylin slipped it onto her wrist and turned her arm gently, watching how the light played across the gems. "It's perfect," she agreed. Lin will love it." Vincent had been taking photos of each piece with his phone, sending them to Maylin's daughter for her approval. His phone buzzed with an incoming video call. "It's Lin," he said, showing Maylin the screen. "She wants to speak with you." Maylin took the phone, her face softening at the sight of her daughter's excited expression. "Hello, dear." "Mom, those pieces are incredible," Lin exclaimed, her voice so loud that everyone in the room could hear her enthusiasm. "Especially that blue diamond necklace. Is that really the famous Azure Empress? I've only seen it in magazines." "Yes," Maylin smiled. "The very same." "And you're actually buying it? For my wedding?" Lin's eyes were wide with disbelief and joy. "Of course. You're my only daughter. Your special day deserves something special." Lin's expression became more serious. "But Mom, it must cost—" "Don't worry about the cost," Maylin said gently. "Your father would have wanted you to have it. You know how he always said that some occasions in life deserve to be marked with something extraordinary." At the mention of Hao, both women fell silent for a moment. Though 5 years had passed since his death, his absence was still felt deeply by his family. He had been larger than life, brilliant in business but even more remarkable as a husband and father. "I wish he could be here," Lin said softly. "He is, in his way," Maylin replied. "Every time we remember his wisdom or his kindness, he's with us." Lin nodded, wiping away a tear before brightening again. "Do they have anything for Kai's mother too? She's been so wonderful helping with the wedding preparations." Diana, who had been discreetly giving Mei Lin privacy for her call, perked up at this. "We would be honored to help select something for the groom's mother as well," she said. "Did you hear that?" Mei Lin asked her daughter. "Yes. Maybe those jade and diamond earrings in the third picture? The ones with the teardrop shape? They would suit her perfectly." Mei Lin looked to Diana, who nodded and immediately went to retrieve the suggested pieces. "I'll bring them home tonight and you can look at everything properly," Mei Lin promised her daughter. "I can't wait. Thank you, Mom. For everything." Lin blew a kiss at the screen before ending the call. Mei Lin handed the phone back to Vincent, who slipped it into his pocket with a warm smile. "She's as excited as when she was 6 years old and you bought her that toy microscope," he observed. "Some things never change," Mei Lin agreed, though her taste has certainly become more expensive. They both laughed, sharing the comfortable familiarity of old friends. Harold, who had been standing quietly in the corner for most of the selection process, stepped forward with a leather portfolio. "Mrs. Chen, shall we discuss the particulars of your purchase?" Mei Lin nodded. While Diana continued showing Vincent some additional pieces, Harold opened the portfolio and began preparing the paperwork. "The Azure Empress necklace is priced at $3,200,000, he said, writing the figure down. "The matching sapphire earrings are $850,000. The tennis bracelet is $620,000. He continued listing each item Mei Lin had selected. When he reached the final tally, just over $7 million, he looked up with a practiced neutral expression. For some clients, even wealthy ones, such a sum might cause hesitation. Mei Lin simply nodded. "That's fine." Harold cleared his throat. "Excellent. Now regarding payment terms." "I'll pay in full today," Mei Lin said. "Of course," Harold replied, though he seemed slightly surprised. Even their wealthiest clients often preferred to finance such large purchases or make arrangements through their banks. "Will that be by wire transfer or?" Mei Lin reached into her worn handbag and pulled out a sleek black card with no visible logo except for a small platinum chip embedded in one corner. It was the kind of exclusive card that most people had only heard rumors about, issued to fewer than 1,000 individuals worldwide, with no spending limit and benefits that went far beyond points or cashback. Harold's eyes widened slightly. He took the card with a small bow of his head, as if handling a sacred object. While Harold processed the payment, Diana returned with the jade earrings Lin had spotted in the photos. "These are from our heritage collection," she explained. "The jade is imperial grade, over 100 years old. The diamond accents were added by our master craftsman just last year." "They're beautiful," Mei Lin said, touching them gently. "Kai's mother will love them. Her family has always valued traditional jade pieces." "A thoughtful choice for the mother of the groom," Diana approved. "Shall I add them to your selections?" "Please do." As Diana went to inform Harold about the additional purchase, the door to the private room opened fully. A young woman poked her head in nervously. "Excuse me, Mrs. Huang. There's a situation on the main floor that requires your attention." Diana frowned slightly. "I'm with an important client right now, Lily. Can someone else handle it?" "It's Mrs. Blackwood," Lily whispered, though everyone could still hear her. "She's demanding to know why she wasn't shown the heritage collection during her last visit, and why she's never been invited to this private room." Diana's expression tightened. Mrs. Blackwood was one of their regular big spenders, the same fur-coated woman who had entered earlier and immediately received Harold's attention while Mei Lin was ignored. "I'll be right there," Diana sighed. "Please, don't let me keep you from your other customers," Mei Lin said kindly. "We're nearly finished here anyway." Diana looked torn between handling the situation and continuing to attend to Mei Lin personally. "I assure you, Mrs. Chen, you have our highest priority today." "All customers should have priority," Mei Lin said quietly. "We all deserve respect, regardless of what we wear or how much we spend." Diana studied Mei Lin's face for a moment, seeming to truly see her for the first time, not as a billionaire or an important client, but as a woman of genuine wisdom. She nodded slowly. You're absolutely right. Thank you for the reminder. As Diana left to deal with Mrs. Blackwood, Harold returned with the payment receipt and a stack of certificates for each piece of jewelry. Everything has been processed successfully, Mrs. Chen. We'll have all the pieces properly cleaned, inspected once more, and packaged for you. Would you like them delivered to your residence, or would you prefer to take them with you today? I'll take them today, Mei Lin said. Very good. It will take about 30 minutes to prepare everything. In the meantime, may I offer you a tour of our workshop? Many clients find it fascinating to see where our custom pieces are created. Vincent checked his watch. May, we should probably head back soon. You have that conference call at 3. Mei Lin nodded and stood up, smoothing her simple dress. Perhaps another time, she told Harold. As they exited the private room, the main floor of Crystal Palace fell into a hush. Customers and staff alike stared openly at Mei Lin, the unassuming woman who had just made the largest purchase in the EO store's history. Raj, the young sales associate who had initially dismissed her, looked particularly mortified as he busied himself rearranging a display that didn't need rearranging. Diana was speaking quietly with Mrs. Blackwood near the entrance, but their conversation paused as Mei Lin approached. Mrs. Blackwood, Diana said, may I introduce Mrs. Mei Lin Chen, CEO of Chen Technologies. Mrs. Blackwood's heavily made-up eyes widened in recognition. Chen Technologies? The semiconductor company? She extended a hand dripping with diamonds. A pleasure to meet you. I believe my husband's investment firm has holdings in your company. Quite possibly, Mei Lin said with a polite smile, shaking the offered hand. We have many investors. Diana was just explaining the store's policy on showing certain collections, Mrs. Blackwood continued, clearly trying to establish some connection with the wealthier woman. Apparently they're only shown upon request. I had no idea. I didn't. No either, Mei Lin said honestly. Today was my first visit here. Mrs. Blackwood looked stunned. Your first visit? But I've been coming here for years. I must have spent hundreds of thousands by now. Different people shop for different reasons, Mei Lin said gently. I'm only here because my daughter is getting married. Before Mrs. Blackwood could respond, Vincent discreetly directed Mei Lin toward the waiting area near the entrance. I'll check on the status of your purchases, he said, moving toward the counter where Harold was overseeing the packaging. Left alone for a moment, Mei Lin gazed around the gleaming store. She thought about how differently she had been treated in the span of just 2 hours, from being ignored to being the center of everyone's attention. None of it had anything to do with who she really was. People were simply reacting to what they thought she was worth. Hao would have found the whole situation amusing. Money just makes people more of what they already are, he used to say. It doesn't change who you are, it reveals it. As she waited for her purchases, Mei Lin wondered what today had revealed about her. Vincent returned with 2 Crystal Palace staff members trailing behind him. Each carried elegant blue leather boxes embossed with the store's logo in silver. The larger box likely contained the Azure Empress necklace, while the smaller ones held the earrings, bracelets, and other pieces Mei Lin had purchased for her daughter's wedding. Everything is ready, Vincent said. They've included certificates of authenticity, appraisal documents, and insurance information for each piece. Thank you. Mei Lin nodded. Harold stepped forward with another employee, a broad-shouldered man, who looked more like a bodyguard than a jewelry store worker. Mrs. Chen, this is Pavel, our security specialist. He'll escort you safely to your vehicle. For purchases of this magnitude, we always provide security until our clients are safely on their way. That's very thoughtful, Mei Lin said, but we have our own security arrangements. As if on cue, the store's front door opened. A lean man with watchful eyes entered, scanning the room quickly before approaching Mei Lin. Despite his expensive suit, there was something about the way he moved that suggested military training. Ms. Chen, the car is ready, he said quietly. Harold looked surprised. You had security waiting outside all this time? Tao goes wherever I go, Mei Lin said simply. She'd never been comfortable with the idea of personal security, But after Howe's death, Vincent and the board had insisted. Too many wealthy business people had been targeted for kidnapping or worse. Eventually, she'd agreed to Tao's discreet presence, though most of the time, he stayed so well hidden that people didn't notice him until he wanted to be noticed. Pavel handed the jewelry boxes to Tao, who accepted them with a nod of professional respect between security personnel. Diana stepped forward for a final farewell. Mrs. Chen, it's been our absolute honor to serve you today, she said warmly. I hope you'll consider Crystal Palace for your future jewelry needs. The pieces are lovely, Mei Lin replied, though I hope you understand that the most valuable thing isn't what's in these boxes. Diana tilted her head slightly, curiosity in her eyes. Oh? It's the joy they'll bring to my daughter on her wedding day, Mei Lin explained. The memories she'll make wearing them. The story she'll tell her own children someday about how her mother chose these pieces especially for her. Diana's professional smile softened into something more genuine. Of course, that's what truly fine jewelry is all about, marking the most important moments in our lives. Exactly, Mei Lin agreed. She glanced around the store, at the staff who now watched her with eager attention, at Raj who still looked mortified, at Mrs. Blackwood who was pretending not to stare. I do have one small request before I leave. Anything, Diana said quickly. The young man who first helped me today, Raj, I believe his name was. Raj's head snapped up at the mention of his name, his expression a mixture of dread and resignation. He probably expected to be fired on the spot at Mei Lin's request. Yes? Diana asked, her voice carefully neutral. He has a good eye for detail, Mei Lin said. He knew the history of the Azure Empress without having to look it up. That kind of knowledge is valuable in your business, isn't it? Diana blinked, clearly not expecting this direction. Yes, absolutely. Then perhaps he might benefit from additional training in customer service, rather than any harsher measure. We all make mistakes, especially when judging by appearances. Raj stared at Mei Lin with disbelief and dawning gratitude. Diana nodded slowly. That's very generous of you, Mrs. Chen. Not at all, Mei Lin said. Just practical. Knowledge is harder to find than good manners. The latter can be taught more easily than the former. With that, Mei Lin turned to leave. Vincent and Tao flanked her as she walked toward the door. The store remained unusually quiet, everyone watching the departure of the unassuming woman who had spent millions in a single afternoon, and then asked for mercy for the employee who had dismissed her. Outside, the bright afternoon sun made Mei Lin squint slightly. A sleek black car waited at the curb, its engine running. The driver, another security team member, stood beside the open rear door. Wait, a voice called from behind them. Mei Lin turned to see Raj hurrying out of the store, something small in his hand. Tao immediately stepped between them, his posture alert but not aggressive. It's all right, Mei Lin told him. She looked at Raj. Yes? The young man held out a small cream-colored envelope. You forgot the care instructions for the Azure Empress, he said. The blue diamond requires special handling. It should never be cleaned with ultrasonic cleaners, and it's sensitive to certain chemicals. He hesitated, then added, I wrote some additional notes on the proper care. It's a truly remarkable stone. I've studied it since it arrived at our store last year. Mei Lin accepted the envelope with a smile. Thank you, Raj. I appreciate your thoroughness. And Raj took a deep breath. I wanted to apologize for earlier. The way I treated you was inexcusable. You were doing your job as you understood it, Mei Lin said gently. But perhaps now you understand it differently? Raj nodded earnestly. Yes. Mrs. Huang has already asked me to help develop a new training program for all staff. She says we need to focus less on how customers look and more on listening to what they actually want. That sounds like an excellent idea. It was inspired by you, Raj admitted. Mrs. Huang said you taught all of us an important lesson today. Mei Lin shook her head. If there was a lesson, it wasn't one I planned to teach. I simply came to buy something beautiful for my daughter. With a final nod to Raj, Mei Lin slipped into the waiting car. Vincent joined her in the back seat while Tao took the front passenger seat. the precious jewelry boxes secure in a hidden compartment built into the vehicle. As the car pulled away from Crystal Palace, Mei Lin caught a glimpse of the store's gleaming facade in the side mirror. For a moment, she imagined what Hao would have said about the day's events. "You should have seen their faces when they realized who I was," she would have told him over dinner. And he would have laughed that deep, warm laugh of his and said, "Their mistake wasn't failing to recognize Mei Lin Chen, billionaire. It was failing to recognize Mei Lin Chen, human being worthy of respect." She smiled at the thought. Even after 5 years, she could still hear his voice so clearly. "What are you thinking about?" Vincent asked, noticing her expression. "How?" she said simply. "And how much has changed since we started the company?" Vincent nodded, understanding in his eyes. He'd been there from the beginning, when Chen Technologies operated out of a tiny rented office with second-hand furniture. "He would be proud of you, you know. Not because of the money, but because you've stayed true to who you are." "I try," Mei Lin said. "Some days it's easier than others." Her phone chimed with an incoming message. It was a text from Lin Lin. "On my way to your house, can't wait to see everything. Love you, Mom." Mei Lin smiled as she typed a reply. "Just leaving the store now. See you soon. Love you too." She put the phone away and gazed out the window at the city passing by. The gleaming skyscrapers, the busy streets, the people hurrying along the sidewalks, everyone with their own story, their own struggles and triumphs, visible or invisible to the world. "We have time for a quick stop before heading home," Vincent said, checking his watch. "Do you need anything else for tonight?" Mei Lin thought for a moment. "Yes, actually. Can we stop at Golden Dragon Bakery? I want to pick up some of those red bean cakes Lin Lin loves." Vincent smiled. "Of course, I'm sure the owner will be delighted to see you. Didn't you help her daughter get into that culinary school last year?" "I just wrote a recommendation letter," Mei Lin said modestly. "Ping did all the hard work herself. Still, Mrs. Liu will probably try to give you the cakes for free again. And I'll insist on paying just like always," Mei Lin said firmly. Their driver adjusted course for the bakery, located in the older part of the city. As they moved away from the glitzy shopping district with its luxury boutiques, Mei Lin felt herself relax. This neighborhood, with its small family-owned shops and bustling food markets, felt more like home than the sterile elegance of places like Crystal Palace. When they pulled up outside Golden Dragon Bakery, Mei Lin could see Mrs. Liu through the window, serving customers with the same cheerful efficiency she'd maintained for 30 years. The shop was modest but immaculately clean, its shelves lined with traditional treats made from recipes passed down through generations. "Would you like me to go in for you?" Vincent offered. "No, I'll go myself," Mei Lin said, already reaching for the door handle. "Some things are worth doing personally." As she stepped out onto the sidewalk, leaving the $7 million worth of jewelry secured in the car, Mei Lin straightened her simple dress and smiled. In a few hours, she would show her daughter the magnificent blue diamond that would become part of their family's story. But first, she would buy some humble red bean cakes from a woman who had never once judged her by her appearance, whether she looked poor or rich. In Mrs. Liu's bakery, Mei Lin was simply a loyal customer and friend, and that, she reflected as she pushed open the shop's door to the sound of a tinkling bell, was worth more than all the diamonds in Crystal Palace. The aroma of freshly baked goods enveloped Mei Lin as she entered Golden Dragon Bakery. The small shop was warm and inviting, with glass display cases showing rows of traditional pastries and cakes. Behind the counter, Mrs. Liu looked up from helping a customer and broke into a wide smile. "Mei Lin, what a wonderful surprise," the older woman exclaimed, her face lighting up with genuine pleasure. Despite knowing exactly who Mei Lin was, her picture occasionally appeared in business magazines and news reports, Mrs. Liu had always treated her like any other valued customer. "Hello, Mrs. Liu," Mei Lin greeted warmly. "I came for some of your red bean cakes. Lin Lin is visiting tonight." "Ah, your beautiful daughter. How is she? Still planning the big wedding?" "Yes, just 3 more months now." "So exciting." Mrs. Liu bustled around, selecting the freshest cakes and placing them in a simple cardboard box. I remember when she was just a little girl coming in here with you and Hao, always asking for an extra cake. Her eyes softened. Hao would be so proud of her. I think so too, Mei Lin said, feeling that familiar mix of warmth and sadness that came whenever someone mentioned her husband. As Mrs. Liu tied the box with a red string, she asked, "And how was your day? You look tired." Mei Lin smiled. "I've been shopping for wedding jewelry. It was an interesting experience." "Ah, at those fancy stores downtown? I bet they fell all over themselves to help you," Mrs. Liu said with a knowing look. "Eventually," Mei Lin replied with a small smile. Mrs. Liu shook her head. "Those people. I've gone into those stores myself a few times just to look. You should see how they stare at me in my work clothes like I'm going to steal something." She handed over the box. "No charge today. It's my gift for Lin Lin's wedding." "Mrs. Liu, please. You know I can't accept that." "Fine, fine," the baker sighed dramatically, but her eyes twinkled. It was a familiar dance between them. $10. "The sign says 15, Mei Lin pointed out. "Special price for my favorite customer." "Then I'll take 2 boxes, Mei Lin insisted, placing $30 on the counter. Mrs. Liu knew better than to argue further. She quickly prepared a second box while chatting about her own daughter, who was now in her final year at the prestigious culinary school. "Your recommendation letter made all the difference. The admissions officer told her so." "Ping earned her place with her talent," Mei Lin said firmly. "My letter just confirmed what they could see in her work." After a few more minutes of friendly conversation, Mei Lin said goodbye and returned to the waiting car, bakery boxes in hand. The contrast between this simple transaction and the elaborate production at Crystal Palace couldn't have been more striking. Here there were no security guards, no special treatment, just the easy warmth of a genuine human connection built over many years. "Next stop, home?" Vincent asked as she settled back into the car. "Yes, Lin Lin should be arriving soon." The drive to Mei Lin's house took them through changing neighborhoods, from the busy commercial district to quieter residential streets lined with trees. When they finally turned onto her street, Mei Lin was surprised to see another car already parked in her driveway. "Lin Lin must be early," she said, recognizing her daughter's blue electric car. Vincent helped her carry everything inside, the precious jewelry boxes and the equally precious bakery boxes. Tao did a quick check of the house, more out of professional habit than any real concern, before taking up his usual discreet position outside. "Mom. Finally." Lin Lin rushed from the kitchen to greet her mother with a tight hug. At 26, she had her father's height and her mother's gentle eyes. "I've been waiting forever. Did you really buy the Azure Empress? Can I see everything now?" Mei Lin laughed at her daughter's enthusiasm. "Yes to all your questions. But first, let me put these cakes in the kitchen and freshen up a bit." "Yui went to Golden Dragon?" Lin Lin peeked into one of the boxes. "Oh, my favorite. Thank you. You can thank Mrs. Liu next time you visit her. She sends her congratulations." While Lin Lin arranged the cakes on a plate, Mei Lin went to wash her hands and change into more comfortable clothes. She replaced her simple dress with loose-fitting pants and a soft sweater, removed her minimal makeup, and pulled her hair into a casual bun. This was how she preferred to look at home, comfortable and relaxed, without any need to impress anyone. 1. She returned to the living room. Vincent had arranged all the jewelry boxes on the coffee table. Lin Lin was hovering nearby, barely containing her excitement. "Shall we?" Mei Lin asked, sitting on the sofa and patting the space beside her. Lin Lin didn't need to be asked twice. She dropped down next to her mother, eyes fixed on the largest, blue box. "Is that it? The necklace?" "Let's find out," Mei Lin said, picking up the box and carefully opening it. The Azure Empress seemed even more magnificent now than it had in the store. The blue diamond caught the warm light from the living room lamps and transformed it into something magical. Lin Lin gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "Mom, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." More beautiful than your engagement ring? Vincent teased from across the room. Lin laughed. Different kind of beautiful. Kai chose the perfect ring for me. She held out her left hand, where a modest but elegant diamond sparkled. But this is like wearing a piece of history. Would you like to try it on? Mei Lin asked. Lin nodded eagerly. With careful hands, Mei Lin lifted the necklace from its velvet bed and fastened it around her daughter's neck. The effect was stunning. Against Lin's youthful skin, the blue diamond seemed to come alive, its deep color a perfect complement to her dark eyes. Oh, Lin, Mei Lin breathed. Your father would have loved to see you like this. Lin touched the stone gently, her eyes growing misty. I miss him so much, especially now, with the wedding. I know, dear. Mei Lin squeezed her daughter's hand. But he'll be with us that day, just as he's with us now. Vincent, sensing the emotional moment, quietly excused himself to take a phone call in the other room, giving mother and daughter some privacy. Tell me about the store, Lin said after a moment, wiping away a tear. Did they treat you like a queen once they realized who you were? Mei Lin smiled. Not at first. They saw an ordinary woman in a simple dress and assumed I couldn't afford anything. No, Lin looked outraged. But you're just another customer to them until they learned otherwise. Lin shook her head in disbelief as Mei Lin recounted the day's events, being ignored by the staff, Raj's dismissive attitude, Harold's sudden change when he realized who she was, and the arrival of the store owner herself. That's terrible. I hope you complained. They should all be fired, Lin declared with the fierce sense of justice that reminded Mei Lin so much of Hao. Actually, I asked them not to fire Raj, Mei Lin admitted. What? Why? He was so rude to you. Because making mistakes is how we learn, Mei Lin explained. And his mistake wasn't really about me, it was about his own assumptions. Today might have taught him something valuable that will serve him well for the rest of his life. Lin considered this, her fingers still absently tracing the contours of the necklace. You sound just like Dad. The highest compliment you could give me, Mei Lin smiled. Now, shall we see the rest of the pieces? There are some beautiful earrings that will match your dress perfectly. They spent the next hour examining each piece of jewelry, with Lin trying everything on and Vincent returning to take photos. For the wedding planner, the sapphire earrings and bracelet were particular favorites, and Lin was touched by the jade pieces Mei Lin had chosen for her future mother-in-law. Kai's mom will be so moved by this, she said, holding up the jade and diamond earrings. She's always talking about her grandmother's jade collection that was lost during the war. As the evening progressed, they ordered takeout from their favorite restaurant and settled in to look through old family photos. Lin had been collecting them for a memorial table at the wedding, a place to honor Hao and other beloved family members who couldn't be there in person. Look at this one, Lin said, holding up a faded photograph. Dad in front of the first office with that horrible second-hand desk he refused to replace. Mei Lin took the photo, smiling at the memory. He said, as long as it held papers and a computer, it was good enough. We had to practically force him to buy a new one when the company went public. He never cared about looking rich, did he? Lin mused. No. He cared about being rich in the ways that matter, family, purpose, making a difference in the world. Mei Lin set the photo carefully in the album. The money was just a tool to him, never the goal. Is that why you still drive that old car and wear simple clothes even though you could have anything you want? Lin asked. Mei Lin considered the question. I suppose so. I have everything I need, and quite a bit of what I want. More possessions wouldn't make me happier. She smiled at her daughter. Though I admit seeing your joy today when you tried on that necklace, that made me very happy indeed. Later, after Lin had gone home with the jewelry safely locked in a special case, Mei Lin sat alone in her garden, enjoying the evening air. She thought about the day's events, the dismissive looks at Crystal Palace, the moment of revelation, Diana Huang's personal attention, Raj's apology and Mrs. Liu's warm welcome at the bakery. People were so quick to judge by appearances, to assign value based on clothing or possessions or bank accounts. They didn't realize that true worth couldn't be seen from the outside. It lived in kindness and wisdom in how you treated others when there was nothing to gain. Hao had understood that. He had built a technology empire worth billions, but he had measured his success by different metrics, by the jobs he created, the lives he improved, the family he loved. Mei Lin hoped that the Azure Empress and all the other precious gems she'd bought today would indeed bring joy to her daughter's wedding day. But she also hoped that the most valuable thing she would pass on to Lin Lin wasn't made of diamond or sapphire or jade. It was the understanding that true worth comes from within, a lesson more precious than all the jewels in Crystal Palace.